Labor Day, fellow Texans. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Are we the only losers working today? We are. We're the losers, right? The cool people aren't working today. The people in charge. I know, me too. I'm including myself in this. I'm not insulting you. I'm just wallowing at the bottom of the hierarchy alongside you. Because I noticed, Casey had a fill-in today. Oh, Casey got someone to let him have Labor Day off. I noticed Vince did a rerun, so there's... What am I doing here? Garrett's not even here, or original Garrett. There's Garrett the board op, and then there's Garrett the backup board op, and then there's the Garrett the board op when I'm on remotes. And this isn't a Newhart takeoff. We really just have a bunch of Garretts around me. Even Garrett's off, or Garrett 1 is off. I'm trying to, my new AI, I'm working on an alternative, artificial intelligence producer to replace Garrett. I call it Good Garrett. And so I was kind of working on him over the weekend. So if Garrett's not going to show up, maybe I'll be at a place next Labor Day where Good Garrett can take over. If I can just master the macro so Good Garrett can run the board, because I already got him, he can already give me better feedback than real Garrett. And I've trained Good Garrett's voice to affect that of Jasmine Crockett. So that's extra fun. Just sometimes you just
Anglo.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Good Garrett. But we'll work on that maybe next Labor Day. But you're at work too? I had the Labor Day discussion with my kids yesterday. We're in the car and they're in the back. They're like, "Hey, we don't have school tomorrow. Do you have work tomorrow, Dad? We can go do stuff." No, I have work. Well, I thought Labor Day was when you're not supposed to work. It's like, well, there's no such thing as a day that everyone has off. And they're like, why can't there be a day where everyone has off? I'm like, well, if you're dying in the hospital, your doctors can't all take off. All the nurses can't just leave the hospital and just let everyone die and, not empty your colostomy bags or give you your shots or go see what happens when that machine starts beeping next to your bed. We can't just have everyone off. So if your house catches fire, the firefighters won't show up till Tuesday to come put it out. If you get robbed, the cops still have to show up. If you have an emergency, there still has to be a doctor to work on you. And I guess if you turn on the radio, I'm the only sucker here that has to actually talk into a microphone. But no, there's no such thing as a day that everyone gets to be off. If you're a farmer, you have to feed your animals every day. It's not up for debate. So here we are, you and me, Labor Day. Welcome to the fun. We do actually have some news. And one of the news stories that we'll hit up this with my first guest in the next segment. There's been some huge attacks on both sides in the Russia-Ukraine war. And I scratch my head on why this doesn't make news, because I see so many people that have Ukrainian flags still in their bios. And just earlier this year, they were marching in the streets in major American cities, flying the Ukrainian flag, protesting Russia, calling for an end to the war and all this stuff. And now we have, the United States actively involved in a hot war with Russia. Now, we're not actually pulling the trigger, but Ukrainians are taking American weapons and using them in Russian territory. So these are all clear acts of war, just technically speaking. You may not feel like we're at war. But the idea that this doesn't make bigger news, the only explanation I have for this is, would it make sympathetic to Trump's position that we need to do whatever it takes to end this war? Yeah, I think so. And so now the selective reporting on the Russia-Ukraine war, where it was the most important thing that everyone had to change the flag in their bio and their profile pictures, the Ukrainian flag and all this goofy stuff. It's not more important than making Donald Trump look bad? Damn, you people are evil. You are so ate up with politics. No, we don't even want to end the war. As much pain and suffering as there is going on, we don't want it to end because that might make Donald Trump look good. They don't care how many thousands of Ukrainians and or Russians die. Their reporting is based not on the truth, not on what you need to know, not any journalistic standards or integrity, but whether or not it could possibly make Orange Man bad good. That makes sense? Well, I was trying. So, yeah, there's that going on. Also, there's another story in the news that actually isn't in the news that should be in the news. I mean, if you go dig and you can find it. But it's one of the things that's plastered with headlines that should be hitting you upside the face when you turn on the TV tonight, and it's not going to. Do you know that there was another big crash? And this just happened on I-20 right outside of Lindell, which is adjacent to Bug Tussle. A multi-vehicle crash on Saturday. 17 injured people to the hospital. It shut down the only interstate we have out there for hours. But according to documentation, according to reports, I saw it first from my buddy Sarah Field over on X. The carrier is out of California. This is a state that's known for issuing non-domicile CDLs to non-citizen truck drivers. But we have 13 violations been found, including driving beyond the 8-hour limit. Documents also show a possibility of insurance hopping. And here we have, yet again, a misbehaving immigrant truck driver. Killing people, hurting people, causing chaos. Jamming up traffic is kind of the least of the worries, but that still counts. You're not going to get a whole lot of reporting on that either. Well, it's an ugly mainstream media we got out there, don't we? All right, coming up next on The James Show, we're going to talk to Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur. He's from Rigaku, and he knows all the stuff that's going on in the Ukraine-Russia war that the media, they know it's happening. They're just not rushing to put that at the top of their headlines. They're not running to go out and put this out above the fold on their news websites. But then after that, we have a couple other things that I want you to stick around for. And if you're in your car and you're about to get in, go to the store, or you're running errands, when you get back in, make sure you put it back on the show, because there is a couple of congressmen, one a Democrat, one a Republican, that are going to have a press conference Wednesday with 10 of the Epstein victims. And so I don't know if they're going to go out there and start naming names. I doubt it, because there's all kinds of legal consequences. But I think they're going to tell their story in an attempt to shame Congress into voting to releasing the Epstein files. It's just a public pressure campaign. I know this is all PR, but this is the kind of stuff that works. This is the kind of stuff that moves politicians. So we got a great show laid out for you today. Also, this being Labor Day, it's just me, you, and about 9 other people listening. So if you've ever wanted to call in a radio show and ask a question, even if it's off topic, today's one of your best chances of getting in. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku breaks down the Russia-Ukraine news. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, happy Labor Day. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Well, on this Labor Day, I know a lot of people aren't paying a whole lot of close attention to the news, but news is still happening. My next guest is going to give you some info I bet you're not getting a whole lot of from the rest of the news outlets. Dr. Jeffrey Broder is back on from Rigaku, chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear consultant at Rigaku Analytical Devices. And I was just trying to dig through before the show and noticed that there have been actually some big battles and attacks in the Ukraine-Russia war. Not seeing a whole lot of headlines, so I was like, well, let's get Broder back on. So what are we missing? What's the average person not know about the war right now? You know, Dr. Broder, I remember a story about how and this was years ago, a professor at UT here in Texas said that he could take down any drone or unmanned aerial vehicle or something to that effect. And what he did is he sent the wrong coordinates and fed it. You know, he didn't take control of it. He didn't hack it. He didn't get past the security system of the computer that was running it. He just told it was in the wrong spot. And so it would naturally make adjustments to go to the right spot. And is that what's happening here? They're just sending it like false info? So the signals come from above. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Good stuff. So, are the attacks, would you say they're getting bigger and bolder since we've had the peace summits? All right, we're talking with Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. Also, if you're on 12 motorcycles, you can pop wheelies, and that's probably a big advantage in wartime. But we had a deadline after Trump met with Putin, and then he sat down and had a meeting with Zelensky and a bunch of other European folks. He's like, I want to see this resolved in a couple weeks. Do we have a firm deadline on that, or did it already pass, or is no one paying attention to it? Well, India didn't India get slapped with extra tariffs for buying Russian oil? Isn't that what drew the ire there? Well, Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur, you work with Rigaku. You guys sell equipment that could be useful in some of these scenarios. How does this affect your company? Yeah, it sounds like the closest thing to the X-ray goggles I tried to buy out of Mad Magazine in the '80s, sir. Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku. I appreciate your expertise on the Russia-Ukraine situation. Thank you, sir. And those glasses don't work, by the way. Don't fall for it. I know we're about 40 years late on that one. All right, coming up on the James Show, two congressmen are holding a press conference with 10 Epstein victims this week. Will we ever expose the clients? 800 288 9227. Details next on the James Show. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hello, fellow laborers on Labor Day. I am your host, James Parker. This is News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Do I sound bitter? Because I'm only like maybe 5%, maybe 10% bitter. It's not like I'm laying bricks over here, but we do have to work on Labor Day. That stinks. But here's some good news. This will make you feel better. I just saw this morning. I was like, print this out. Can't wait to tell people on the show. So a Democrat representative, Ro Khanna from California. So it's not just a Democrat, it's a California Democrat. And then Republican Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky. So it's not just a Republican, it's a Kentucky Republican. And you know what they're like. Rand Paul, Thomas Massie, they're the super liberty guys, almost libertarian. They're going to have a joint press conference coming up on Wednesday. And we're told that 10 victims of Jeffrey Epstein are going to be a part of this news conference. And they're going to tell their stories and try and whip up a little bit of fervor, interest, and really shame. The whole point of this is to shame Congress into voting to release the Epstein files. So that is what this whole press conference is going to be about on Wednesday. Now, this press conference itself isn't going to do anything. This isn't going to accomplish anything concrete. This is total PR, and rightfully so. We're dealing with politics, and so you got to play politics if you want to win politics. You got to play the game. So I am mildly optimistic about this because after hearing from the Epstein victims, are we going to hear the usual parade of shame that comes with this? Is the news media going to help us out with this, or are they going to let it slide? Because they've actually been pretty good about the whole Epstein files now that Biden's out of office, and calling for the files doesn't put any pressure and make anybody from Team Blue look bad. So will we get something on that? All right, let me play you a couple of sound bites here. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California. He wants... This is all in a pressure to get the House of Representatives to pass a measure allowing the release of the Epstein files.
We've got 212 Democrats and 12 Republicans, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. Look, this is not about Donald Trump, and it's not partisan. This is about justice for the victims of rich and powerful men who abused underage girls. And 10 of these victims are speaking out for the first time at a press conference that Massie and I are organizing on the steps of the Capitol on September 3rd. In this country, people want transparency. They want accountability. I'm confident we're going to get the 218 votes for the discharge petition.
Now, I'm not sure if this counts as bipartisan. A lot of people will say this is bipartisan because there's a Republican and a Democrat involved. But when all the Democrats are voting one way and only 12 of the Republicans are voting in the same way, that doesn't really feel bipartisan, and that kind of bothers me. Republicans, and I know you're not a Republican congressman, but why aren't they in favor of this? Why would they stop this? What is their problem with this? And that's the ugly dance that you've noticed from politics before, is how many times when the party that's out of power runs their mouth, and then when they get in power, they turn into these little field mice, like, oh, it's just little old me. Well, there's nothing I can do about that. I don't know how to balance the budget. Oh, my goodness. How could you expect me to do such things? Oh, little old me? Oh, you want me to release the Epstein files? Well, I'll see what I can do, and I'll ask some hard questions, and I'll go fight for you, but can't promise anything. Oh, little old me, you want school choice? Well, I'll go down there, and I'll see what I can do. Stop it. So, hey, maybe this will work. As much as I hate these emotional plays where they're intentionally just tugging at your heartstrings for political purposes, maybe it'll work. Here's Ro Khanna again, making a good point. How are you going to argue against this? Because once you hear the victims' voices, if you critique that, are you critiquing the victims?
Talk about that news conference, because you're kind of touting it, that it's going to be, if not explosive, there's going to be some news made.
Well, these victims haven't spoken for decades. When Epstein got that lenient plea deal, no one talked to the victims or their lawyers. No one talked to the victims or their lawyers when Maxwell was sentenced. No one has ever heard, what do they want? And my belief is when the American people actually hear the victims for the first time, They are going to sympathize, their hearts are going to be broken, and all the victims are saying is for closure, we need the Epstein files released. That there are a lot of other rich, powerful men, politicians, business leaders who have committed abuse and who have not been held accountable. That's what we're going to hear on September 3rd, and people are going to be outraged, and I don't see how after that the House can't vote for the release of these files.
Okay. I've been disappointed every time I've gotten my hopes up for when it comes to this Epstein list. But am I naive to get optimistic again about maybe finding out who's on the Epstein list or who were some of the clients were? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Because coming up next, I'll give you the T-chart on reasons why I think we will get some sort of resolution when it comes to the Epstein clients and reasons why we won't. And I'm kind of leaning on, I'm sorry, but I'm kind of leaning on, I'm not so sure we will ever get the list. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Stick around, got a lot of great shows still left, and at 4:30, I know that's like a couple hours from now, but if you have to leave, come back, because we're going to be playing Dead or Alive for 4 tickets to see the Rangers take on the Houston Astros. So for my local fans and Houston transplants, that's happening this Sunday, September 7th. I'm going to give away 4 tickets to that around 4:35-ish with Dead or Alive, the easier of our game shows. But right now I'm talking about my muted enthusiasm for a press conference that's slated to happen on Wednesday. It was announced by Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna and Republican Representative Thomas Massie. One's from California, one's from Kentucky. Every once in a while, Ebony and Ivory can get together and sing in beautiful harmony. Man, they should make a song out of that. And this is just going to be a push. This isn't going to release the files themselves, but this is meant to shame people into releasing the files. And I'm super interested in this because not only is this an interesting setup from the point of view of, wow, all the Democrats are for this, a few of the Republicans, more of the Liberty Caucus Republicans are behind this. So who's really just left against this? The old school legacy establishment Republicans, the neocons of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world, the John Cornyn's of the world, not the cool kids, not the Rand Pauls and Thomas Massie of the world. So that's going to be an interesting divide. But then you take that out of DC and you apply it to the rest of the country and the colors flip. You're going to see what is the media going to say about this? Are they going to criticize this? Are they going to push for this? Because I don't know how this plays out. And does this make Donald Trump look bad or does this make Donald Trump look good? I don't think the media knows what to do with this story. Because I think they accidentally played into his hands over the whole DC situation. Now stick with me on that. We'll get into something a little deeper than that. Oh no, heck, I might squeeze it in this segment too. I got a great soundbite that kind of spells out the trouble that the media is in and the Democrats are in, because they're all on the record saying, man, Donald Trump shouldn't be going into DC. This is wrong. The National Guard is just going to make things worse. Not even necessary. Won't even help. They can't even fight crime. They're just picking up trash in the park. This is such a waste. This is literally Hitler. And we turn out 2 weeks later, there hadn't been any murders, crimes down, fallen like a rock in the Marianas Trench. And we're having a bunch of people change their tunes. We're having the mayor of DC saying, yeah, it's been pretty good. Anything that keeps my people safe, I'm in favor of it. But look at how this is playing out in the rest of the country. How does the mayor of Chicago continue to make his case that the National Guard coming into his town wouldn't be good when we see what it did for DC? How can the media make the case against releasing the Epstein files? I guess they would probably be for it because right now Donald Trump's against it and they just do whatever the opposite he wants to do. But there was no great outrage from the media for 4 years over the Epstein files. There was no big push by Ro Khanna, or for that matter, Thomas Massie, to get the Justice Department to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. And I have seen it with my own eyes. I've been in newsrooms where I have watched the information come in, and I have seen journalists. The worst was in TV because we actually had to have editorial meetings. We don't have an editorial meeting where all the shows and all the producers get together and here's our top stories and here's the angles and here's how we're going to cover it. And you're going to go there and you're going to get a soundbite from this guy and you're going to get some research on that topic and and it's all put together in like a big machine. Here, this is like different shows kind of do their own thing. And if we happen to overlap, that's pretty much a coincidence because we're all looking at the same headlines. But I have seen the sausage being made. And like, just as an example, hey, one of the Dallas Cowboys was caught on a hidden video using the N-word. It's exactly what you think. If you are in an editorial meeting, the first question that comes up isn't, oh my goodness, that's racist. How are we going to cover this? Or, oh my goodness, who cares? That's not important. It's, well, who said it? What is the color of the person that said it? And based then, only on that information, do they know whether or not they're offended. It really is that bad. So the media, you know, we talk about them as some monolith, and they're not. I mean, I'm part of the media. People in this building, behave in a much different fashion than these people that I just generally blanket throw insults at from time to time. But you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who a month ago were telling you that we're going to be in a nuclear war with Iran imminently and they're going to start drafting your kids. Remember that? There's someone, I don't want Trump to start an Iran war and draft my son. We've been in a ceasefire ever since. They told you the stock market was crashing, never to return in April. We're at record highs. They told you inflation was transitory. It's still been above 2% since they said that. Hell, they told you Biden was sharp as a tack up until about a year ago. They told you masks worked. They told you Jussie Smollett was attacked. They told you COVID didn't come from a lab. They said repealing net neutrality would ruin the internet. They don't know. They don't know. The headlines are not for telling you things that they know. The headlines are for them trying to affect public opinion in favor of their preferred political worldview. Now, Jeanine Pirro, who used to be on Fox News running a great little weekend show, is now the acting AG over DC. And she was talking to the media about the crime stats and whether or not the DC intervention by the National Guard is working. And this sounds like an A+.
In the last year and 8 months, 45 black teenagers, minority teenagers, have been shot and killed with firearms. Do you know what the clearance rate is, Shannon? The clearance rate, meaning how many cases have been solved, is 29%. That means that 70% of the murderers of African-American teens, all of them killed with guns, are still out on the street with their guns, continuing to do what they do. And so for all those people who say, oh, crime is down, isn't this great? That's nonsense. What we need is to recognize that the first order of government is the protection of its people. And President Trump is willing to make sure that D.C. has the resources, that D.C. has the determination, and all of us, both in the United States Attorney's Office, are doing the best we can to put together the most solid cases. And so far, we've had 1,528 arrests, 156 guns taken off the street, which means they can't be used to shoot and kill other people. Last night alone, 76 arrests.
They're getting it done. Sorry you're not going to see it a whole lot being pushed over here. Look, on MSNBC right now, voters express outrage at town halls across the country. No, do D.C. Don't go find some, what is that? In Rhode Island? In Angie's? Oh, August 4th in Rhode Island? Oh, yeah. That's great news. Why don't you talk about all the black lives that have been saved in the D.C. National Guard intervention and how maybe if we did in other cities, we could have a conversation about how many more could be saved. No, not interested. That would make the bad guy look good, and it's more important for your politics to let black people die in inner cities. Great world view you've got there, guys. Real loving group of people. Very, very impressed. You should be so happy with yourself. Coming up next. So the redistricting battle in Texas is over. Sort of. Still got to go to the courts. But Brian Harrison went on CNN over the weekend and was challenged by Caitlin Collins. And you'll hear 3 clips of him slapping her down and crushing her like Dixie cups coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. The Texas redistricting battle. The next step is already now in the rearview mirror as the governor signs it at the end of last week. So now it's going to be enforced, except for what's going to happen in the courts. And the real question in the courts is not whether or not it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. It's can you find a sympathetic judge who will put a gavel down, even if it's clearly the wrong thing to do, even if it's going to get overturned by 28 other courts, even if it doesn't make any sense. Can you find a sympathetic judge to try and put a stop to this? Maybe. That's what we're waiting on next. So this is now up to the lawyers. As far as the legislators go, they actually did their job. It's now passed. There's nothing else that could be screwed up with the House, Senate, or the governor's signature here. So now we play the waiting game, and it's just up to the courts. While I am cautiously optimistic, the courts have let you down a few times before, haven't they? Over the weekend, a friend of the show, Representative Brian Harrison, who is the state representative out of the Midlothian area, that's his district, he actually was on CNN. And he was butting heads with Caitlin Collins. And I got 3 clips here, starting off with, she kept trying to do this both sides, like, well, you talk about how Democrats do, both sides do it. It's like, okay, can we stop with the both sides? Because that's almost you admitting that you're wrong. Yes, it's wrong, but both sides do it. That's not a good excuse. That's like, hey, did you find out that Bob's wife is cheating on him? Oh, that's wrong. Well, he's cheating on her too. Oh, well, then they're fine. Neither one did anything. No, they're both doing something wrong. But anyway, that aside, she keeps trying to come back to that. Not anything other than, well, both sides.
So I just want to be clear. We have covered it when Democrats gerrymander as well, sir.
Well, Caitlin, I got to tell you, I'm incredibly flattered the amount of time CNN must have spent fact-checking what I said earlier today to come up with those clips. But if those are the best clips you can find, then my point stands. I was proven correct because at no point was he asked to justify those maps. But here's the point. It wasn't that I was saying good, bad, right, or wrong, whether they could or should or shouldn't. The point is what we're talking about in the state of Texas is something that is constitutional. It's legal. The Supreme Court has said we can do things like this. And my main criticism of the liberal Democrat governors in California, New York, Illinois, and other places isn't so much the weighing in on the merits of their maps. It's the rank hypocrisy and the fake outrage. These Democrats, my Democrat colleagues that fled the state to go hide behind Governor Pritzker, they're not mad that states are engaging in redistricting to maximize partisan political advantage. What they're mad about, but they won't say it, they're mad that a Republican state is stepping up and doing it. That's the real problem, and that's the hypocrisy that I'm trying to point out here.
All right, so Caitlin Collins, just can't let it go. She'll never admit that she was wrong, or, maybe one side does do it more than the other. But then she's trying to throw out there, well, why redistrict at all? Why'd you even need to do this?
Why is it your responsibility as a state representative to make sure Republicans in Washington hold the majority?
Because the hundreds of thousands of Texans I represent, that's exactly what they want. Because they know that the liberal Democrat Party is the party of bigger government, bigger regulations, less freedom, and they want what the Republican Party stands for, which is more limited government, individual freedom, secure borders, elections that are secure. That's what my voters sent me to Austin to do, and it's what I'm committed to doing down here. And then one thing back to this point of why we're doing it, it's not that we're raising the stakes and the Democrats are coming back. I got to go back to this. The Democrats have been doing this for over a decade, and Republican states are just now catching up. And just one statistic that you got to let me say here is that 10 years ago, when the Republicans won the U.S. Congress with only 1% of the popular vote, we had a 45% electoral margin in the U.S. House, compared to just last year, where we won with a bigger percentage of the popular vote, right? But only 3 seats, and that's because Democrats have been gerrymandering like crazy for the last 10 years.
And that's the tough part about gerrymandering is we're talking about a subjective term. How do you determine whether or not a map is gerrymandered? If it has some funny looking districts, okay, well, that's pretty much everyone there. And, the point that they're making isn't that gerrymandering is good or bad. The point is that Massachusetts is about 40% Republican, has 0 congressmen that are Republican. There's not a concern. If you're concerned about gerrymandering, wouldn't you start there and not start with Texas, which is still going to have, a good handful of Democrat representatives in a state that's overwhelmingly red? No concern there? Well, then he's right. There's the tinge of hypocrisy, but no, She insists it's not hypocrisy. It's just the both sides thing. This is how you get out of it. No. I know what we're doing is wrong, but both sides do it.
Certainly say Democrats do it. You pointed out with Illinois, and that's fair. But also Republicans do it too. And to that point,
Well, I can say
a lot of Democrats. Actually, hold on, sir. A lot of Democrat-run states, I looked at this, are constrained by independent, nonpartisan redistricting commissions that were championed by Democrats. So wouldn't that undercut your argument?
Not at all. I mean, of course, the Democrats are the party of giving more power to unelected bureaucats, but look how that worked out in California. By any objective measure,
There's
the
citizen-run
unelected bureaucrats
redistricting commissions that are independent.
Citizen-run is the same thing as unelected to me, and quite frankly, California is more gerrymandered than the maps that we're talking about today in Texas. So I'm not saying that Republicans haven't engaged in partisan redistricting. I'm simply saying that over the last decade, Democrats have done it to a much greater and a much more aggressive rate than Republican states like Texas. And it's time that Texas gets in the game and does its part. And that's what I'm fighting for.
That's such an exhausting logical fallacy, the appeal to expertise. It's like, well, this isn't as gerrymandered. California's not as gerrymandered. We had a commission, appointed a commission, look at it and determine it's not as gerrymandered as Texas. Oh, okay. Well, if they say so, then I guess I guess it's null and void here. I guess Massachusetts should have 0 Republican representatives in a state that's almost 40% Republican. Oh, you got me there. Some other expert said it is. That's fantastic. This is not going to work for them the way they think it's going to work. And I don't know. They can't drop it, though, because what this ends up doing is even if we all go to the polls and vote the same next November, this will give the GOP a bigger majority in the House. Now, I'm not too wildly optimistic about that in the fact that, well, which Republican representatives are going to get in there? Is it going to be Republican representatives like John Cornyn or Thomas Massey? Am I getting a Mitch McConnell or am I getting a Rand Paul? I'll get excited for the Liberty guys. I won't get excited for another Rhino, for like a Dustin Burrow, Dade Phelan, one of those guys. So I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll let you know when it's time to get excited. Coming up next on The James Show, we have Garrett Folsey from Young Voices and the podcast Seeing Red, a Texas political podcast. He's going to talk about the new redistricting maps, if they will survive the courts, and what is next on the playing field in Texas politics. That's coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Cowboys fans, you know every game counts starting this weekend until January, so don't miss a moment of the action this season on Prize Picks. Make your picks on your favorite Dallas Stars and ride with the boys all season long. James Parker here for Prize Picks. You know, you and I make decisions all day, every day. But on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So here's how easy it is. You download the Prize Picks app, and you have to put together a lineup of 2 to 6 players, and you look at their statistics. You pick more or less. Saquon Barkley, more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. Joe Burrow, more or less than 2.5 passing TDs. That's it. So you build a lineup like that, 2 to 6 of your favorite players. It could be players you hate. It could be players you miss. You could go be you could put Micah Parsons on your lineup. Doesn't matter what color jerseys he's wearing. He could still be on your team. And then you do that. You let the games happen. And afterwards, you just go collect. And look, if you're, a little squishy about your picks, Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. So download the app today. Use code WBAP to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WBAP to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Hey, that's kind of heavy music for Labor Day. Like, supposed to have a day off, not an existential crisis here. It's the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Oh, it's the instrumental. Good. Hey, are you still at work or are you off today? Yeah, I'm still at work. I have a feeling most of the people that are still listening are people in their regular daily routine that, listen on a daily basis. But for the few people who've kind of stumbled onto this show that aren't normally able to listen at this time of day because you're at work, if you like what you hear, we have a podcast for this. Go check it out. You can listen time shifted whenever you want to the James Show. My next guest is coming in from Young Voices, Garrett Folsey with the Seeing Red, a Texas politics podcast. Welcome to the James Show. You're a perfect guy to talk to, a guy who watches Texas politics all day. Now that the map is officially passed and signed into law, I guess the only thing left is the court battles, Garrett. That's interesting. Do you think we'll have any problems getting this through the court for the Texas map? Well, Garrett, once we have, this is in our rearview mirror looking forward, what else are we looking to accomplish here in the special sessions? The STAR test? Okay. Mm-hmm. Are they replacing it with anything? All right, we're talking with how many Garretts are we going to have on the show today? We're talking with Garrett Folsey from Young Voices and also the host of Seeing Red, Texas Politics podcast. Any real reform on property taxes? I think there was talk of like a $40,000 exemption, and that's about it. What do we know about that? Garrett, what's the word on punishments or some sort of negative consequences for the representative who fled the state to avoid a quorum? I mean, that's bad, but it's not as bad as losing your office or being I mean, is there any talk of coming up with a bill that says if you do this again, you vacate your seat? All right, Garrett Folsey, welcome to the James Show. It's good to have you on for here for the first time. We'll have to have you back on again. Where do we find your work online? Thank you very much. Coming up next, I have count them three for you, bad apple teachers here in the state of Texas who are in trouble for being a little too familiar with your kids. That's next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. One of the reasons you listen to the show is you hear a bunch of stories that just don't fit in with some of the other news outlets around town. And this is stuff you need to know. This is stuff that you have kids that are in school, maybe grandkids that are in school, nieces and nephews in school. Are you in any way attached to school, or do you care about children at all? Because one of the websites I go to on a regular basis, almost daily basis, to do prep for the James Show, one of them is called Texas Scorecard, texasscorecard.com. And they have a section called Bad Apples, where they have assigned one of their reporters, Aaron Anderson, aggregates the bad apple teacher stories from around the state of Texas. And we call them bad apples because it's sort of a tongue-in-cheek, like, well, you know, it's just one bad apple. You don't want to have to throw out the whole bunch for one bad apple. Well, it's a lot of bad apples. They're into hundreds. They've been doing this for about 2 years now, and I think they're over 300, which you want to start doing some math. This is almost an every other day occurrence. You understand how bad this is? This is why I bring it up over and over. And it's going to sound like, well, James, you're doing 3 stories a day, but we're in a state of, 30 million people with millions of kids in school, and they're coming across teachers millions of times a day. So, I mean, just no, this is too much. This is a problem. Something needs to be done about it. Let's go to the review sheet here. A 41-year-old was arrested by U.S. Marshals, charged with 3 counts of sexual assault of a child and 1 count of improper relationship between an educator and a student, and is now a former Lubbock teacher. So there were the alleged assaults occurred in 2019 when the victim was still a student. This fellow worked as a track coach and English teacher at Lubbock High School. And it's more than just exchanging improper images via cell phone, which he did do with the girl. But there was also what they call assault, which, whether it's consent or not, it's statutorily going to be assault, whether or not she was into it, because she's a child and she can't consent. And a 41-year-old man has no business exploiting his position within the public school system, or private school system for that matter, to get at your kids. Now, this is a guy where you kind of want to add a little bit of concern based on his age. If they catch these guys when they're like 24, 25, it's like, well, he got into the school world, he tried it, he didn't get away with it. A guy that's 41, he didn't just develop this overnight, did he? Has he been doing this for a couple of decades and not getting caught? Yikes. We have another woman that came forward after he already got charged and his face was in the news. This is the bad news I'm talking about. She actually came out when she saw him in the news and it's like, all right, back in the day, he did something similar with me. Here's the terrible part. This guy was also a youth pastor at a church at the time. Yikes. The next one, we go down to Pearsall, which is just a little southwest of San Antonio. The Pearsall Independent School District just had a young lady, 24 years old, at a junior high school, having inappropriate communications with a student. Now, they don't tell you if she was using her cell phone to have inappropriate communications with a student at the junior high, or if it was a student somewhere else in her school district or her system, or if it was a student at another school. But we think it's going to have to be at Pearsall. She's a graduate of Pearsall High School just in 2019. She was just certified as an educational aide October 23, and she's now in trouble and arrested and charged with a handful of crimes. Yikes. Now, I don't know any more details other than the student was under the age of 17. That's a different set of charges because the legal age of consent in Texas is 17. So there's a whole nother slew of charges and secrecy that comes on it when it's under 17. For our next one, KIPP Charter School, San Antonio. A teacher was arrested after a 15-year-old female student accused the educator of forcibly hugging and fondling her at the end of last school year. Now, this is a woman who's 27 years old. And this one, she was affectionate throughout the year, repeatedly made the student feel uncomfortable. And then there was a grabbing, a fondling, and it was more than she put her hand on the small of her back. It was on a private part. And also asked if she could kiss the girl. The female student forcibly pushed her way out of the teacher's grasp, went to the cops. Now she's in trouble. Okay, San Antonio Police Department is now involved. The teacher's now booked in jail, $50,000 bond. And that's three. That's three of the stories that just came out in the last week. And I'm just looking at one website, Texas Scorecard. Now, I want you to take what you just heard from these three stories. And in the next segment, we're going to roll this into some of the news that's happening now that's anti-Christian. Because I'm going to ask you, how many follow-ups are we going to get on any of these teachers? How many follow-ups are you hearing today about the teachers that did this 3-6 months ago, or the teachers that got reported on a year ago? And then I'm going to ask you, how many follow-ups are you hearing on the Gateway Baptist Church or some of these other preacher stories? Oh, they get follow-ups, but the teachers don't. Let's dig into this open wound next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And a rash of 3 stories here in the state of Texas of teachers doing inappropriate things with students. This comes at the same time when I heard today, and I think over the weekend, I don't know, I was only half paying attention over the weekend. I was playing with kiddos. I was getting regular updates. You've been hearing regular updates about some of the churches around here where they had inappropriate relations with children here. But I want you to try and just remember in your head, whenever you hear one of these updates, whether it's the Gateway Church or whatever's happening, was the other one, South Lake or Colleyville or something like that. Whenever you hear these church scandals and you get updates on things that happened 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever, do you get regular follow-ups on these bad teacher stories? Are you going to get regular follow-ups on these 3 that I just told you about here in Texas? Are you getting follow-ups from the ones that happened 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago? Does that ever happen? Never? How many bad Apple teacher stories get skipped in the news? Did you hear about any of these in the news? Do you think any of them get skipped around here? Do you think that happens with pastors? If a pastor is inappropriate with a child, do you think that gets skipped over in the news around here? Oh, yeah, it happened so much, just couldn't fit it in. You know, we only got 30 minutes of a TV program every day. We can't get in every story, so that one just hit the cutting room floor. But you would come away, and understandably so, you could come away with just listening to the mainstream media and think that it probably happens more that kids are abused at churches and schools when the numbers bear out a completely different story. The numbers for kids being abused in schools is astronomically higher than churches. But what are Catholic priests known for? What's a common, easy, low-hanging fruit punchlines? Yeah, something pedophile. Ha, ha, ha. That's it. He likes kiddos. Get it? Yeah, they're easy. We hate Christians. Isn't that funny? But that's not what's in reality. And so let me ask you, you don't even have to be a Christian to get this, but if you are, you need to listen up. Do you think the constant negative bias toward Christians in the media may be contributing to events like you just saw last week in the Minneapolis church shooting, the Nashville church shooting 2 years ago, the shooting last year at Joel Osteen's church? Remember that one? Now, that's not counted as a mass shooting because the deranged Free Palestine trans legal immigrant didn't get to kill a whole lot of people when she was taken out by security guards almost immediately. But you got 0 updates on that, didn't you? None. Are you getting regular updates on the Free Palestine guy who just drove through the crowd on Bourbon Street this year? You getting updates on the Free Palestine guy who murdered the 2 Jewish diplomats in D.C. with a Free Palestine guy who made a homemade flamethrower and burned elderly Jews in Colorado? No updates on that. But you will about the preachers. You will about the Christians. You won't get it about the teachers. You're not going to get it about the Antifa activists that shot up the Alvarado ICE. I mean, that's already been memory hold, the ICE detention facility in Alvarado. Where you getting updates on that? No? Oh, it's so weird. So if the reporting was equal on these things, teacher sex scandals as Christian sex scandals, think of how that would affect the public's perception of Christians and teachers. Now, you're more informed than most. You listen to WBAP, understood. There's about 40% of the population that maybe read some headlines. They don't seek out news. They're listening to music. They're watching sports. They're watching the Real Housewives of Mesquite or whatever it's in this season. But if reporting was equal, even these people might accidentally end up with the understanding that for every Christian pastor or youth minister or whatever rolled up in a sex crime, that's dwarfed by the number of teachers rolled up in a sex crime. You may end up feeling sympathetic toward Christians if we had equal reporting in the media and equal amount of follow-ups, newspapers, TV stations. I'm looking at you. If you had equal reporting on this, you might end up feeling sympathetic toward Christians whenever they're criticized. It's like, oh man, can you believe what's happening at this church? Yeah, that's bad, but it pales in comparison to what's happening in the schools. You know? You may end up feeling sympathetic toward Christians when an anti-Christian bigot murders Christian children for the specific reason that he hates Christians in Minneapolis last week. You think there'd be a little more Christian sympathy out there? You're not hearing any of that, are you? Is he being called an anti-Christian bigot? Is this being called an anti-Christian attack? Is there even a word for being anti-Christian? We have words for if you're an evil Christian, Christo-fascist. But there's no term. There's not an Islamophobia, anti-Semitism. They've got words. Do we not have words for us? You know, if the reporting was even somewhat equal on how much kids are abused in your schools versus church, you might end up feeling different about homeschoolers. Yeah, you think they're weirdos. Who pulls their kids out of school? You got free school right here. You've got trained teachers who've been to college and know what they're doing. And you have all these extracurriculars and these great activities. And you have the social networking and the camaraderie and the cohesion and the fun and the pep rallies and the football. But if you ever got actual, honest, equal reporting on how many kids are being abused at schools, you'd be like, no, I get it. Because there's people out there who are scared of guns being in schools. We've got to do something about this gun violence in our schools. We're the only country who has this problem with guns in our schools. But schools are not scary because of guns. Your kids are far more likely to be sexually abused by their teacher at school than shot by a gun. What do you think those numbers are? It's hard to even look it up. I mean, how many kids do you think in these school shootings happen every year? Dozen? Couple dozen? And then how many kids do you think are sexually abused by their school teachers every year? But which one gets more attention? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, another giant crash on the interstate. This one happened in Texas again from a questionable immigrant truck driver. Details next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next story is a sad one. This happened on the way to Bug Tussle. If you go out I-20 and you go east, right outside of Lindale, there was a big crash over the weekend, and that was kind of big news where I'm from, because usually, you know, this is Bug Tussle. It's like I think the main story before this crash happened was there was a new restaurant that opened up in town. Right? It's a big headline there. We have that's like 5 restaurants in town now. So yeah, this catches your attention because the size of the wreck was insane. And I can't show you the pictures, but let me just try and throw some stats out here that you'll know without even having to see the pictures how bad this was. 17 people went to the hospital. 17 people on Saturday went to the hospital. Now, the reporting on this is, I don't want to say it's all over the place, but when it comes to stories like this, you and I have both learned that the traditional outlets can be quite unreliable when it comes to situations that don't fit their existing narrative. So I've really had to go online and dig around and see what the other internet ninjas have looked up about this, because you're not going to get the straight skinny. And plus, you know, part of this is criticism because they do this on purpose, but a lot of this isn't malice. A lot of this is when you're working, especially in the smaller towns, you have like one guy who's getting $9 an hour to sit there during the weekend and take stuff off the wire and retype it up and then put it on the website. You've got to have a picture that matches it, or if there's a video from a recent broadcast that matches it better, you've got to put that on there, and then you've got to submit it, and then someone else has to review it, and then you have to publish it, check for errors and all that stuff. And they don't really have time to just sit there for a couple hours and go through every story. You got one guy that's just taking what he's given, repackaging it, and cranking it out. And so that's not really their fault. So I should probably say that more. A lot of my criticism for the media isn't from a place of malice. They don't have the resources to do the job. But in this one, there's so much politics that overlaps with this that it's more than that. And now there's an established pattern. How many of these stories have we had? Hell, just in Texas, we had one in Terrell a couple months ago where some people lost their lives at the hand of a trucker who probably shouldn't have been here in the first place. It happened to Austin earlier this year where a guy did the same thing the guy in Terrell did. It appears to just run into a line of cars without braking or stopping. Was he checking his phone? We don't know. The cops pulled him out. He acted like he was not sober. He couldn't speak English. All kinds of questionable stuff around there. So that gets memory hold too. I do not want all these to get memory hold, because this is another one. And the great excuse for this one to be ignored, well, no one died. It's just, 17 people went to the hospital. Thank you very much. That's not even 17 people were injured. 70 people were injured enough that they needed additional attention beyond what could be given to them at the scene of the accident. So this is just absolutely terrible. And it's getting very little attention. How many people have to be killed or hurt or maimed on the roads of Texas before we even have a conversation about this? You know, we had the George Floyd riots burn down dozens of major metropolitan areas, you know, at least the downtown areas or the bad part of town or whatever, for months on end because of the scourge of unarmed black men being killed by cops. We have had more Texans injured by immigrant truck drivers this year than we did the unarmed black men killed by cops in the year of George Floyd. Do you realize that? We're already above that. Anybody rioting? Anybody setting anything on fire? Anybody protesting? Did anybody even make a foam core sign? No, we didn't. Doesn't that make you feel good? If that's you getting run over by a truck, news doesn't care. No, they only care about the stories that make you look bad. They want to go out and talk about, hey, here's why you shouldn't like Christians, or hey, here's why white people are evil, or here's why native people are inferior to immigrants. God, they make crime. They do crime at a much greater rate than their immigrant counterparts. You'll get all the stories about how you're evil, you're bad, But when someone goes and shoots up a Christian church, no big deal. When someone goes and runs over Texans, immigrants come and run over Texans when they're not even supposed to be behind the wheel of these big killing machines we call big rigs, that's not a big deal. Someone finds a garage string that's tied like a noose on Bubba Wallace's garage. National news. We get a team of 7 FBI agents to go look into it. The hell kind of world are we living in? Why are we putting up with this? This is bad. A multi-vehicle crash on Saturday sent 17 people to the hospital just down I-20 here. You'd think it would be a bigger deal. But let's keep watching this because there's nothing like being proven right on a long enough time scale. I mean, I would rather people just go ahead and take a look at it now while we bring it up. And there's only 17 people that went to the hospital this weekend. There's only 5 that died in Austin earlier this year. I forgot what the death toll was from the one that happened right outside of Terrell, right by my favorite Buc-ee's earlier this year too. No big deal about that. But on a long enough time scale, if these people keep running up and killing your fellow Americans, your fellow Texans with big rigs, maybe someone will do something about it. I did see a little bit of flash in the news a couple of weeks ago about the Sikh guy that decided he's just going to randomly do a U-turn and he killed the family there who ran into him. Didn't seem to have much remorse for that. But no. There's no outrage here. Come on. This is an immigrant that is killing Native Americans. That's not a big story. 800-288-9227. That was tongue-in-cheek, by the way. Don't at me. Some people don't pick up sarcasm. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to a retired U.S. Army helicopter pilot about what he thinks is going on with Russia and Ukraine. Is this war actually winding down or is it ramping up again? We'll talk about it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Welcome to the big show. And happy Labor Day. Thanks for joining us on what should be our day off, but I guess we're not off, are we? My next guest is Darin Gaub. He's a retired U.S. Army helicopter pilot. Used to fly a Black Hawk. Now he's author of Veritas Vincent. Welcome to the James Show for your first appearance on the James Show. Give us a little bit of your background and why we would care what you have to think, Darin. Well, see, that's one of the things that even as a layman who's just trying to figure this out from the outside, man, how different does war look now, seeing what's going on with Russia, Ukraine? You talk about the future of war. Sounds like the future of war is drones. And I don't mean just adding drones to what we got. Drones replacing human beings flying around in the sardine cans to actually, make the missiles fire and control the plane. We don't need that anymore. We don't need a whole lot of nearly as many pilots as we used to. It's all about drones these days. Well, do you think we're kind of behind on that, or are we ahead of other countries? Ooh. Well, we're getting a chance to sort of test out some of these new technologies. If you want to say that that's a bright spot to the Ukraine-Russia war, I mean, that's kind of morbid, but still true. You get to work out some of the kinks in these strategies at someone else's, peril. Do you think we've learned a lot from Ukraine-Russia? All right, we're talking with Darin Gaub, retired U.S. Army Black Hawk pilot who now looks at the future of wars as a consultant. What is the future of this war? What is going to stop this war? Is there something that can happen that would make both sides come to the table and say this needs to end right now? Yeah, I guess not. Russia, I don't know why anyone think that they could lose this on their own. When was the last time someone was able to win a land war in the geography of Russia? Genghis Khan? Yeah, right. Darren Gobb, do you think we'll still be having this war going on in a year? You say that like they want that. They want more war? Not time to quit? Yeah. All right. Well, fun stuff. How do we find your work online? Darren Gobb, I appreciate your first appearance on the James Show. How do we find your work online? Oh, you must be good. Darren Gobb, Gaub, the author of Veritas. Vincent, am I saying that right? Vincent? Okay. Truth prevails. Cool. I learned a little Latin today. Thank you very much, Darren. We'll have to have you back on the show soon. All right. Now, I need my baseball fans to listen up because coming up next, we're playing Dead or Alive. And I have a 4-pack of tickets. That's right, 4 tickets to see the Texas Rangers take on the Houston Astros. So if you're a transplant and you're a Houston fan, this is your chance to come see them down the road. If you're a Texas Rangers fan, you can take either 3 of your friends with you or a friend and 2 enemies with you. But we're playing Dead or Alive next. And today's category is Robin. Go ahead and call in 800-288-9227 if you want to play. 800-288-9227. 9227. It's a super easy game. I'm going to give away the tickets to someone. Go ahead and get in line. Hopefully, it can be you next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Happy Labor Day, fellow Texans. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you're just joining us, you're in time for today's game show. It's called Dead or Alive. Oh, I thank you, Mr. Jovi. Welcome to Dead or Alive on the James Show. You know, we do a couple of game shows on the James Show. This is our easier one. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you 10 celebrities. We'll use that term loosely, but then you have to, all you got to answer is, are they dead or alive? Well, that sounds pretty easy, James. It's like a 50-50 shot. Yeah, this is pretty easy. Today we're playing for 4 tickets to see the Texas Rangers take on the sorry Houston Astros. I'm just kidding. I love Houston. They're fine. It's coming up this Sunday, September 7th at Globe Life Field, but it's also Pokemon Go Day at the ballpark. So maybe if you're not a baseball fan, you're just a Pokemon Go fan, maybe you want to win some tickets. But if you go this Sunday and you purchase your tickets through Rangers.com/theme nights, you're going to get an exclusive Rangers Pokemon Go t-shirt. So for the people who aren't on hold right now, get your tickets at Rangers.com. How about ladies first? Let's start with Jennifer in Irving. You ready for Dead or Alive?
Yes, I am.
All right. Today's category is Robin. This is the Robin edition. Everyone here is going to be named Robin. Jennifer, are you ready?
Yes.
Number 1, Robin Wright. We know her as Princess Buttercup from The Princess Bride, Jenny from Forrest Gump. She was Claire Underwood in House of Cards, but is she dead or alive?
She's alive.
She's alive, yeah. Looking great. Robin Williams, the great comedian, Mork and Mindy and all through everything else. Dead or alive?
He's dead.
He is dead. Robin Gibb from the Bee Gees, one of the Gibb brothers. Is he dead or alive?
Oh, he's dead.
How'd you know that?
Because I love the Bee Gees.
I didn't know you kept up with your Gibbs. I take it back.
Yeah.
Robin Tunney. She was in Empire Records and then The Craft and then like Prison Break and The Mentalist. Is she dead or alive?
Ooh, I think she's alive.
She is alive. She's only like 54. Robin Thicke. He sang Blurred Lines with Pharrell and T.I. Is he dead or alive?
Alive.
Same age as me. So he better be alive, damn it. Robin Givens. She was from Head of the Class and then Mike Tyson's very entertaining wife for a while there. Is she dead or alive?
I believe she's alive.
60 years old. She is alive. Robin Leach. From the Lifestyles to the Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
Dead or alive?
Yeah, I remember him. He's dead.
Died in 2018. Good call.
Yeah.
Robin Roberts. She's on Good Morning America, and she interviewed Jussie Smollett a month after the attack and still believed him. Is she dead or alive?
I believe she's still alive, even though she's fighting cancer.
Yeah. She's 64 years old, and after not breaking Jussie Smollett, she's still allowed to keep her job somehow.
Yeah.
This one, you're a baseball fan. Robin Ventura.
Yeah.
He played for the White Sox, got punched in the head 6 times by Nolan Ryan. Is he dead or alive?
I think he's dead.
Oh, my God. Why would you say that? No, he's only 58 years old. Jennifer, you're doing so good.
Oh, right.
All right. Well, thanks for trying, Jennifer.
Yeah, no problem.
Man, she mowed through 9 out of 10. So whoever's next is probably going to get it. There's no more girls, so I got stuck with a guy. Ugh. Gross. Dan Irving. You ready?
I am ready.
All right. Now, Dan, here's the deal. All you got to do is get 1 correct, and the 4 tickets are yours. You ready?
Well, that's a lot of pressure.
No, it's not that much pressure. Robin Quivers. She was Howard Stern's sidekick all those years. Is she dead or alive?
She's alive.
She is alive. There you go. That's all it takes. Dan's going to get a 4-pack of tickets to see the Rangers take on the Astros. And it's all happening September 7th, Globe Life Field. Sunday Pokemon Go Day. For those of you who didn't win your tickets, you can take the music down. You get your tickets at Rangers.com/theme nights, and that'll score you a free, exclusive Rangers Pokemon Go t-shirt. All right, that's a fantastic edition of Dead or Alive. Thanks for playing. I like that part. All right, coming up next on the James Show, some fun audio that'll give you a quick laugh from the viral videos over the weekend. You'll hear it next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. One thing you love from viral videos that I love, we all love from viral videos, is the gall that some people have to turn their camera phone to their face and say things that anybody like watching this would laugh at. And not a comedian telling a joke, but a guy who's trying to be all hardcore and serious. And instead of being intimidated or afraid or even, like bolstered, like, yeah, that's my team, we're awesome, you're a punchline. So I'm going to play you the audio first before I describe the guy. All right. So I just want you to soak this in, and then I'll give you a description of the fella.
I'm from Seattle. MAGA won't step foot in my city without a police armed escort.
All right. So this guy has a nose piercing on one side, and then he has a nose piercing on the other side, and then it's connected with a chain. He also has no color in his face, which I'm not making fun of someone for being pale or being white. I mean, that's me, actually. I'm a pretty pale white fella. But he looks like he never gets sun. Like, you can tell I've got like some freckles. I have some coloration right now because it's summer and I mowed the lawn yesterday. This guy looks like he's never been outside. That kind of pasty, like don't even stand next to windows, lack of sunlight. Now he's wearing a ball cap, but he's doing that curious thing. There's two suspicious people in ball caps for me. I don't mind if you turn it backwards. That doesn't bother me. But if you don't pull your cap down far enough and it's sitting so far back that I can still see the hair coming out the front, and it's not because you have long bangs that are coming down in front of your face like you're Tony Hawk in 1988. I mean, so we can see your cute curly hair sticking out of the bottom. Because the whole point of the hat is to, put a visor over your face. So if the bill's just like sticking up and your hair's sticking up, now you're just wearing it as an accessory. Like you got it at Claire's instead of Champs. Another thing, he has noodle arms. And again, there's nothing wrong with being skinny, just like there's nothing wrong with being fat. But if you're going to try like being intimidating and whatnot, you need to be able to lift 20 pounds with your right arm. On top of that, MAGA. Okay, now I'm going to play it again now that you know what he looks like. On top of that, he thinks he's scary. He thinks he's intimidating. But how many MAGA people do you think are in Seattle right now? It's a metropolitan area of like, what, 5 million people? It's, almost the size of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's huge. Probably millions are in there.
I'm from Seattle. MAGA won't step foot in my city without a police armed escort.
They're in your city by the millions right now, and none of them have a police armed escort. You just stood in line in Walmart behind a MAGA person and you didn't know it. Nobody's scared of you. You're not intimidating anybody. That's a silly thing to say. Even though, look, I politically disagree with you. You're welcome to come to my town. You don't need a police escort. You're not in any danger if you come to my town. You can listen to my show. You can go to my stores. You can go to the bar. You can go to the restaurants. You can have a good time. You can go to a Cowboys game. You can go to the Texas Rangers game against the Astros for Pokemon Go Day this Sunday at Globe Life Field. Why would you even throw that out there? You need an armed escort to come into my town. So you're just going to beat up anyone that's MAGA? You know what that makes me want to do? It makes me want to go to his town and find out where he lives and just knock on his door. Hey, tough guy, I'm MAGA and I'm in your town. I don't have a police armed escort. What are you going to do? And just watch him, because what is he going to do? Was he going to try and hurt my feelings? He doesn't have a gun. And those are the people who talk the most smack, isn't it? The people who don't have a gun. The people who think guns are scary. People who've never lifted a weight in their life, probably never been in a fight in his life. You're going to need a police armed escort. Shut up. God, that's hilarious. I love just the misplaced confidence of these people. Just makes me so happy for some reason. And I don't get why I enjoy that so much. But think about what he's doing here. He's threatening violence on other people based solely on their politics. And he probably calls you a fascist while doing it. Isn't that amazing? Like, doesn't that somewhat blow your mind? It's like the lack of self-awareness here. For you to say, I'm ready to visit violence upon my neighbors based solely because they don't agree with me politically. You're the fascist, dude. I mean, if you had actually lifted weights and you weren't scared of guns and you were a little more masculine and you didn't have a cute little nose chain between your two nose rings. Yeah, you were really scared of you. The other one I wanted to bring up, I played this last week and this was so good. And I got a lot of good feedback on it too. This has to do with something that's going on in the great state of Texas. I can't believe the city of Houston, or I think it technically was Harris County. I don't remember which one. But in Houston, they're going to be hosting the Gay Softball World Series, which I am not against the Gay Softball World Series. In fact, that sounds awesome. I think I would rather watch that than a Major League Baseball game. You know how awesome that probably is? My problem is the city of Houston has appropriated almost $500,000, $500,000 in order to host the game. What do you need that money for? Well, we got to, fix up the park or something. Why do you have to spend money for the Gay Softball World Series? And who did you outbid for this? Now, and again, I'm going to have to say this like 5 times because there's people who listen to the show with a specific intent and trying to get me in trouble. They wait for me to say something that can be perceived as hateful, and then they call my bosses, and then they call the general manager, and then they call people on the board of directors and the CEO, and people all up and down the chain, seriously, all the way to the CEO have gotten emails about me and the horrible things that I've said. So let me just stress, I not only am I not against the Gay Softball World Series, I am pro Gay Softball World Series. In fact, I think we should segregate gays out in some of these other events, and that'd be pretty cool. What if we had an entire football league that was gay? They played tackle football. Wouldn't that be a trip? I don't know how you would, I don't know how you would measure whether or not they actually fit the definition of gay. Because the interesting part about the Gay Softball World Series is how open to corruption it could be. And you're like, what are you talking about, Parker? Well, if you wanted to bring in a ringer, if you wanted to bring in like one of the greatest softball hitters in your town, he happened to be a straight guy, you could just lie. There's not a litmus test you could take. It's not like this, you sit down and they give you a pop quiz of your top 10 favorite Broadway musicals. They just kind of have to take your word for it, right? It's in like the boxer in the Olympics where you can go test for it. It's like, well, you have XY chromosomes. Shame on you. This is gay. You can't test for gay. I mean, not in the softball setting, but I mean, I guess in other settings you could. But somebody find me where that's going to be broadcast on TV, because I would give that a shot. I gave the WNBA a shot. It was terrible. But I will say this. It may surprise you that I am more entertained watching women's softball, that fast pitch underhand stuff, than I am watching a Major League Baseball game. There's more action. There's more hitting. There's more fielding. There's more throwing. There's more base running. There's more strategy. Oh, yeah. I find that far more entertaining than actual professional baseball. I bet you the Gay Softball World Series, I bet you that's more entertaining than Major League Baseball, too. I'd watch that. Don't write it off. You'd probably watch it, too. What if it's amazing? Now, you would have to assume that the Gay Softball World Series, they're specifically talking about guys, because they already have that on the women's side. It's called the Softball World Series. Oh, man, I tried not to laugh at that one. All right, that's going to about do it for the James Show. Thank you very much for hanging out here on Labor Day. I know a lot of people have the day off. You and I don't. But if you do have the day off and you don't normally get to listen to the show and you're like, hey, this guy's pretty funny, I'd like to listen to him, but I'm usually working during the 2 to 5 weekday time slot, that's what the podcast is for. Like after this show, I'm going to go cut it up and put it online. You can find it and you can listen to it whenever you want. You can start at the very beginning. You can stop whenever you have to take a break or talk to a customer, and then you can restart it whenever you're done with your phone call. It's a great way to time shift the show, and you can enjoy it even if it doesn't fit in your normal schedule. So go find it at WBAP.com, WBAP app, the podcast app, Spotify, all these other apps where you listen to podcasts. Look for James Parker, The James Show, The James Parker Podcast, something to that effect. It'll pop up if you just give it a try. And also find out all the good stuff we have put up on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter/X, YouTube, all kinds of good stuff there. And you can judge me based on my appearance. Stick around. Coming up next, the Mark Levin Show, although it's probably going to be a fill-in because important people get the day off. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.